call to order the Thursday, December 18th, College Township Council Meeting. I'll ask all that can stand to please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item on tonight's agenda, public open discussion. Do we have anybody in the room or anyone online who'd like to address council on something that's not already on the agenda? Seeing nothing in the room or online, we'll move to new agenda items. Any council members wish to request a new agenda item for tonight or future agendas? Susan? Anyone in the audience request for a new agenda item tonight or future meeting? Seeing those hands raised online, we'll move to page 2 of the agenda. Takes us to special presentation. Tonight we have one special presentation, SP1, College Township Finance 2025 year-end report. So we're going to start the meeting off with some really good news.
Yeah. Good evening. Council was provided an updated copy of the 2025 project status report and also the line item detail for ended November 30th, 2025. Tonight's financial update focuses on projected year-end balances and the differences between what was budgeted and what is projected for 2025. Listed here are the budgeted fund balances, the projected
full
fund.
screen?
Pardon me?
That's as big as it'll go, Eric, unfortunately.
No? Okay.
I know it's hard to see. Listed here are the budgeted fund balances, the projected fund balances, and the variances of excess or deficits. As you can see, there were some deficits for 2025 in the final totals. The primary factor influencing the deficit variances is the timing of grant revenues that were budgeted for 2025 but won't be received until 2026. The largest impact is in the construction fund. 2 grants we anticipated was the Green Light Go and the Traffic Signal Technologies. The total of those were approximately $315,000. We anticipated that to offset the traffic signal project costs of about $646,000 that were completed this year. Because those grants were not received, the construction fund shows a projected deficit. The short-term gap was covered by the general fund with reimbursements expected once the grants are received. A similar situation occurred in the Parks and Recreation Fund, where a $79,500 grant was anticipated for the improvements at Spring Creek Park. And those monies will not be received until 2026. While the delayed grant revenue created pressure in certain funds, strong operating results helped offset those impacts. On the revenue side, several categories exceeded budgeted expectations. The transfer taxes, approximately $123,000 over budget. Refunds of expenses, and these are expenses from prior years, are about $113,000 higher than projected. Zoning permit revenue exceeded the budget by approximately $395,000, and that has a lot to do with the renovation at Beaver Stadium. On the expense side, savings were realized in several areas, including pipe inspections, stormwater work, street tree maintenance, and road maintenance. Combined, these areas account for approximately $139,000 in savings, primarily due to the effective cost control and timing of the completed work. Together, these positive operating results helped offset the deficits created by the delayed grant revenues and support overall financial stability. This slide highlights real estate tax collection, which remains strong and is a main source of revenue for the township. For 2025, just over $2.83 million in property tax bills were issued. Exonerations were minimal at slightly over $2,000, indicating a stable tax base. As of November 30th, approximately $2.78 million has been collected, leaving about $41,000 outstanding, or roughly 3.4% of the total levy. This collection rate is consistent with prior years. Cash collections were also solid, with just over $3,300 collected in penalties and approximately $52,800 allowed in early payment discounts. When all factors are considered, total cash collected equals the full face value of the levy, of the tax levy. Overall, real estate taxes continue to provide a reliable and stable source of revenue for the township. In summary, the township's overall financial position for 2025 remains strong. Although certain funds experienced temporary pressure due to the timing of the grant revenues, several key service areas came in under budget. Property tax collections continue to perform well and provide dependable cash flow. As a result, fund balances remain healthy and sufficient to support ongoing operations and future needs. And the township is closing out 2025 in a stable financial position. Did council have any questions?
Questions for staff? Tracy? Susan?
No, the only comment I would make, though, is that, taking from what you've said in the reports that you've given, it sounds like staff project management has been a very important part. It has a very important piece of why we're able to manage when those grant disbursements are delayed. So I wanted to mention that and note that, and that's appreciated. And I did have a question as far as our real estate tax collections. They're very, very good. How does that compare to the other municipalities in the area? Is there something we're doing, or is that sort of the region?
Historically, I will tell you that we're between that 2% and 3%.
Right.
Pretty consistently.
Yes.
And the numbers that Kim is showing here tonight are through the end of November, which means there's still December. And there are still folks that will beat it in here at the very last moment on the 29th and try to make sure that they get their taxes paid.
Right.
So usually we have ended up at a 98, 97% collection rate for all the years that I've been here. In terms of the other municipalities, I'd have to defer to maybe Kim on that. I'm not sure. I think it's similar, but I'm not certain.
I think it all depends on the year and how many new incoming people they have. Sometimes taxes are missed because they, just got their house that year and they don't realize that they owe for whatever months that they lived in that municipality. And a lot of times that stuff gets delayed until the next year, but then there's interest and penalties on those for them when they go to pay their taxes for the new year.
So all in all, it's a pretty acceptable rate.
I would say.
Yeah.
I can tell you compared to other jurisdictions, municipalities in New Jersey, they would give their
Yes.
arm for an 80 or a 97% collection rate.
Yeah.
So we can work with that percentage.
Yes.
No, I don't have any
It's
questions.
notable.
But not surprisingly, Rich offered some comments today around noon by email, not necessarily for the record. They're suggested format changes for the most part, if you read them.
Okay.
And I'll trust that you work with Adam and Mike to evaluate those format changes and incorporate where we think it's appropriate.
Okay.
Just to make mention, there is another piece beyond the presentation that's in the packet to Kim's report, and that has to do with our project status report, as well as there's a line item detail that's also been supplied. A number of the comments I know that Mr. Franken made had to do with the project status reporting, and I think these are things that we can work on and incorporate going forward. But there is additional detail here in those documents as well. If there's any questions, feel free to engage us offline or otherwise.
All right. This is not an action item, information only. That's our only special presentation. That takes us to plans tonight. Tonight we have P1. We have one plan, P1, the Crew 814 Phase 1 final planned residential development plan. Do we have anything from staff? Okay.
Yeah, just a brief introduction and overview of where we've been, because this has been a long process, and we're coming to the end. So tonight is the point in the process where council's being asked to take action on the planned residential development plan. This is for the Phase 1 final PRD plan, and you're all aware of the process that we've gone through to get here to this point. I'd like to review the process so far. So we had a rezoning request from the Firkin teams. They requested to rezone property at Shiloh Road in the Dale Summit area of town to allow multifamily units in the planned Research Business Park District, which was not currently a use at that time. So we changed the zoning, and with that, we allowed multifamily residents by conditional use so long as they're built under a planned residential development. So that's what we have here. We have multifamily residential use permitted by conditional use and developed under a planned residential development. We try to acknowledge the fact that we're changing the zoning in Dale Summit to a more hybrid form-based code. So we worked with the applicant on the rezoning and the Planning Commission closely to ensure that density, the walkability, the open space elements of form-based code are going to be incorporated into their design, which we feel that they did a pretty good job at that. So now we have the tentative plan. This was submitted to us, to council, staff reviewed. Planning Commission made the recommendation to council to approve the tentative plan with about 18 conditions. Those 18 conditions were met on the final plan, and the plan is now moving forward. Please note that all of those 18 conditions are highlighted on the final plan. That will be recorded and part of the document. So next slide, we have the final plan. So at the last meeting where we discussed this, we did an overview of what's going on with the final plan. This is a plan that's going to consist of 64 fee simple townhomes, 55 rental townhomes, an apartment building of 36 units, and an apartment building of 42 units, plus a community center, all part of Phase 1. Phase 2 down the line is designated for some commercial or mixed uses. The tentative plan that was approved, the final plan cannot stray far from the tentative plan. We ensured by working with the developer that any of the changes made were not significant enough to have to go back through the process again, and council also was able to determine that at one of the earlier meetings. So now we have the final plan here in front of you. We do have a memo with some remaining conditions, but some to note are the traffic impact study, a highway occupancy permit, a memorandum of understanding for workforce housing units, and a developer's agreement for workforce housing units. So between now, if council decides to approve the plan tonight and the time the plan gets recorded, those conditions will all have to be met before the plan can get recorded and under construction. John Sepp is here tonight and his team. We have a representative.
Proportionate. It's
Oh, yeah,
proportionate.
absolutely, absolutely.
And I mean that, I only draw attention to that because as Susan says, this is, as we've alluded to, this part is really exciting. And I've said it before, but it bears saying again, for those who are just coming into this now and haven't seen the deliberate process that we went through, that staff, the developer, and my fellow council folks here deserve a lot of credit, I think, for this. You know, we stayed nimble, we were responsive, the developer stayed flexible, and we were able to craft something that fits, as Lindsay noted, at least in the spirit of what we're trying to do out there, while we evaluate, you know, the entire area. You know, business continues.
It does. It could prove as a good catalyst project for us, and a good example for the density, especially in some of the townhomes. A lot of the townhomes are consistent with the width that we're proposing in our form-based code. So that was a good example to show to the Planning Commission too when we were considering how that was all gonna look.
I do have one question. In previous land development plans that we have been requested to approve and to look at along the Shiloh Road corridor, we've always had notes in the plans relative to the TIS, so the Transportation Impact Study. Do we have similar notes on the plan that are similar to those previous approvals?
Yes,
for this?
there is a condition on the plan that the traffic impact study has to be completed prior to any approval or prior to any occupancy. And anything that comes out of that study will then apply to the development plan.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, other questions, comments? I will add that it's got to be the nicest looking trash compactor facility that I've ever seen. So with that, the chair will certainly entertain a motion here. This is an action item. We're under the timeline here, I think.
Correct. 21st is the deadline.
So unless we want to meet again before the 21st.
Okay, I'll make the motion, but are we agreed that we will include the consideration of the memorandum of understanding under number 5? Okay, all right. Then I move to approve the CREW 814 Plan Residential Development Phase 1 Final Plan dated September 22nd, 2025, and last revised December 10th, 2025, subject to the following conditions. 1, within 90 days from the date of approval by council, all conditions must be satisfied, final signatures must be obtained, and the plan must be recorded with the Center County Recorder of Deeds office. Failure to meet the 90-day recordation time requirement will render the plan null and void. Number 2, provide proof of traffic impact study approval. Number 3, provide approval of PennDOT highway occupancy permit prior to occupancy. Number 4, pay all outstanding review fees. Number 5, address to the satisfaction of the township engineer any outstanding plan review comments. Number 6, fully comply with the College Township Code Section 180-12. Number 7, post surety is approved by the township engineer prior to recordation. Number 8, provide proof of National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, NPDES approval. Number 9, record approved declaration of stormwater access and maintenance easement. Number 10, submit 2 owner-signed, full-size tentative plan sets prior to recording the Phase 1 final plan. And number 11, all conditions must be accepted in writing within 7 days from the date of the conditional approval letter from the township engineer.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Then I'll go to you, John.
Second.
All right, before we take action, I have a motion. I open the floor to public comment. John, you had your hand raised?
Yes, just one, it's not a clarification, but just a statement, is that with the conditions of approval, one being a TIS, and having this done within 90 days, in all likelihood, we would be asking for extensions of the approval, which is allowed for in your process, but I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've had lots of discussion about that.
Yeah.
And I think it's at least understood that that's how this is going to work.
Sure.
Right. And we do, like John said, we do permit extensions. The first one is usually free of charge, and then after that, we do start charging for plan extensions.
All right, any other questions, comments? Before we take a vote, assuming we are going to move this, I just want to again, kudos to everyone involved. I believe this is an example of responsive local government. And I think we should all be proud of what we've crafted together with John and his client. So with that, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that's our only plan tonight. That takes us to reports. In our packet tonight, we have the manager's report. Does the manager have anything else to add?
I don't believe I have anything specific to add to the report, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, who wants to make the manager happy with a question?
I actually have something to add if
Oh,
you don't mind, Adam.
please.
Just an addendum to Path to Campus. We did receive notice here this afternoon that, we swung for the fences on an LSA grant, and, well, we didn't clear the fence, but we at least got extra bases, so we got half of what we were asking for. So, yeah, we got a $250,000 grant to apply to Path to Campus as well. So now that project has $2,250,000 worth of grant funds towards an approximately $3 million project.
Oh, that's excellent.
Good job.
Yes,
it was.
That was a pleasant surprise
It
today.
was.
That was a state LSA grant?
Yes, statewide.
Since you brought it up, the archaeological study, which is in here.
Yes.
Just checking around a little bit, given the limited impact that this will have compared to a road, which is what I'm used to dealing with when we have, or a parking lot or something, or a park and ride lot. It may not be as cumbersome a process as is usually associated with those. This is wishful thinking, in part. But more importantly, it probably gives us a lot more options should we have to mitigate something versus the scope of a much larger project through that area. So, remaining optimistic. Other questions for the manager? All right. That concludes the manager's report, COG, regional, county, and liaison reports. Tracy, do you need anything?
HR did not.
Susan, anybody need?
Public safety did not meet.
Okay. The exec did meet, and we immediately recessed into exec session to deal with the personnel issue. We reconvened and decided to cancel the formally cancel the December COG general forum meeting.
Right.
So it was a very productive meeting from that standpoint. Yeah. All right.
I do have the IDA meeting.
Yes, so liaison reports, IDA.
I have a liaison report. The IDA met a couple of things. It was a very good meeting, very busy meeting. A lot of work got done for the end of the year. I did include a copy of the 2026 strategic plan for the IDA. They're going to be making some changes in 2026 with the change in the role of the executive director. And so I wanted to just touch on a couple of things. First, Lindsay gave a great presentation on Dale Summit area and form-based code, and that was well received by the board members. They're very keen to see us wrap that up as quickly as possible. They see the business potential, the business development potential in the Dale Summit area, so there were some really good questions and there was a lot of good discussion. And you did a really nice job summarizing for some of the members something that's very complicated.
Oh, thank you.
And even after you had left the room, there were comments and they really appreciated the presentation. So
Thanks,
I thought that was really great. The board did vote to change the meeting time, so they will continue to meet on the third Wednesday of each month. But given that quite a few of the board members have full-time jobs and are in the office during business hours, they will change the meeting time from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that will also give staff time to attend the meeting without having to leave and come back. So they wanted to make that work, and there was some discussion of trying to limit the meeting to 2 hours, but that will be the purview of the chair. So a little bit of a transition in how they're going to do business going forward. As a result of the strategic planning that was led by the executive director, they have a very, very good strategic plan for 2026. They've got very specific goals. And they are a 9-member board, and they have 3 working committees and a governance committee. And the 3 working committee chairs will be convening what they call authority work groups. And these will be subject matter experts that are not board members. And they need not be limited to College Township residents. They'll be bringing in people who have a particular subject matter expertise in some kind of economic or business development, as long as they have an economic interest in the township or region. And each board member leading these groups will sign an MOU and work with those subject matter experts on developing their plans and meeting the goals of the strategic plan. So, you know, they've gone from sort of working without the executive director to having the executive director for a couple of years organizing themselves, and now they're launching into a different way of doing things, a little bit more independently, but with a lot more structure. So it was a very productive meeting, and you know, we've been talking about the executive director role transitioning. Their goal is to understand better the functions of the executive director as well as the director of economic development in 2026. They'll be looking at how those align and then looking at what they will need for township services. Their goal is to have that answer by the end of first quarter. Any questions?
Questions? I really like the subject matter expert.
Yep.
The consultant we hired for the MPO strategic plans suggested that approach with tech committee. It seemed to make a lot of sense. All right. Any other liaison reports? Looking around. That would then take us to staff, PC, and other committee reports. I see Matt's here and Janet's online. Can we get a planning commission report tonight?
Yeah, Matt Fenton from the Planning Commission. Tuesday night, we recommended for approval the zoning change for the Penn State ARL from UP 14 to PRBD. We unanimously approved that. Anybody have any questions on that?
Questions on that one? No.
In March, legendary investor Warren Buffett turned 95. So he has $170 billion, so he figured it was maybe he could afford to retire. And he writes a shareholder letter, and in the letter I found something I thought was appropriate this time of year. He said, kindness is costless, but also priceless. Kindness is costless, but also priceless. And maybe that's one of the reasons why the attitude like that, he got $170 billion. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Matt. Janet, anything for us from Township Parks?
From Parks? From Parks and Recreation, no, we didn't meet in December. On a personal note, which has to do with backyard recreation, my neighbor on Rainlow has begun his annual regulation hockey rink construction. And so I guess like with woolly caterpillars, it's a sign that winter is coming on Sunday.
All right. Thank you, Janet. Do we have any other committee reports around the table? No? Okay. That would take us to Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging report. Mike, anything to add from the earlier?
Nope, everything was covered in the written report, so nothing to add this evening.
Okay. Of course, this is always an opportunity for anyone to address council here under this agenda item. Looking online and looking in the room and not seeing any. Therefore, we will move on to the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda includes CA1 includes 2 sets of minutes. The first is from the December 4th, 2025 College Township Council regular meeting, and the second is from the December 1st, 2025 College Township Council budget work session. CA2 correspondence includes 7 pieces of correspondence. The first is CA2A, a letter from Keith Shapiro dated December 1st, 2025 regarding safety concerns on Spring Hill Lane. CA2B is a letter from Out of the Cold received December 5th, 2025 regarding support. CA2C is a letter from Center Lifelink EMS dated December 1st, 2025 regarding donation. CA2D is a letter from Carrie Benninghoff dated November 18th, 2025 regarding Rockview. CA2E is an email from Theodore Twig dated December 3rd, 2025 regarding Columbia Gas Project. CA2F is a letter from Good Shepherd Church dated December 8th, 2025 regarding a donation. And the last item under correspondence, CA2G, is a letter from CCRRA, Center County Recycling and Refuse Authority, dated December 11th, 2025, regarding the 2026 rate changes. Third section of the consent agenda includes one action item, CA3A, Project 25-16, State Route 26 traffic signal bid. Would anyone like to have any of these pulled for discussion before we consider action?
Could we please pull CA2A?
CA2A.
Mr. Shapiro's letter.
All right, anything else? All right, the chair will accept the motion to approve the consent agenda minus CA2A.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, CA2A, letter from Keith Shapiro dated December 1st, 2025 regarding safety concerns on Spring Hill Lane.
Yes, so Mr. Shapiro notes that he is a resident on a private road that intersects with College Avenue at a busy section of College Avenue. And he has concerns about the cost of the winter maintenance of that road and the potential safety hazard for residents leaving if they can't afford to maintain the road and keep it safe. And the only concern I have is there any concern on the part of the township in terms of how that could affect safety on College Avenue? And is there any mitigation that could be considered? Recognizing this is a private road and we don't necessarily have precedent for managing private roads.
Yeah, the only thing that we have done in the past in similar situations, and in that particular case, I think it was a great issue in terms of the intersection of the private road with respect to the level of College Avenue. We did, whenever possible, we did try to do a little extra curricular salting in that area to try to provide for a little bit more of a safe stop for individuals on that particular grade. That was on Manor Drive. And in this particular case, I don't think the grades are anywhere near equal. And I don't know if that is something that would be necessary, but it might be one of the very few things that we might be able to do here. And I know that we have a public works director and a township engineer that are here, and I'm very happy to let them chime in.
Well, like as you said, Manor Drive, we did do some limited salting at the bottom of a very steep portion of the drive. I don't know that we're still doing it. I know we did it for a short period of time. I don't know if we would choose to maybe try to hit the end of the street with some salt when we have the time to do so. It would not be a priority, but if that's something we would be asked to do, perhaps we could do some of that.
Amy?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of the position, the issue, but yeah, we still do Manor, so if directed, we certainly could try to do something.
And the grade at Manor is steeper than the grade here?
Yes.
Okay. So that is the difference between the two roads, that the
Yeah,
grade is different?
Yeah, there have been
Okay.
there have been actual incidents where cars from Manor Drive actually made their way onto the travel
It
lanes
is steep.
of Route 26.
Yep, yeah. Okay, all right.
But that's something I would suggest to council that what staff can do is we can take a look at that and see if there is that type of a situation that we may be able to address relatively easily.
Right.
given the circumstances. But the biggest problem with this request is that it is on a private road. And, we don't have width. There's a variety of.
Right. It's a narrow road, 16
It's a very
feet.
narrow road.
It's a driveway.
And
Yeah.
it basically is
Yeah.
a driveway.
Right, so it's not.
Which is one of the reasons why we don't accept private roads,
Right.
generally speaking, that are not constructed to township standards.
Well, and it's going out onto a state road. If it was going out onto a township road, we would have vehicles in that area, and maybe it would be convenient to do so, but this would be actually sending a vehicle
okay.
out of its way to go.
That helps to know that too, Don, thanks.
So we can take a look at it, Amy, and by next meeting have a recommendation.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I'm glad it came up. The road empties out on a road maintained by PennDOT.
Right.
So it's not like we're driving by and
Yeah,
we're not gonna
that's
throw
a
more
big
salt on there.
difference. Is well, actually at Manor Road, we're not driving by it either, but
Yeah, and
it's not handy to any of our operations.
And since this came up, I think it at least ought to be noted that we have changed, well, it's probably been 10 or 15 years since we've changed, all private roads have to be built now to township standards. So at least we're not going to create any more of these issues. Should someone still decide to build a road and keep it private, at least it'll be in a position to be turned over to us. Unlike Manor, what's this one, Spring?
Spring
Hill.
Yeah. Okay. Are we good?
Yeah, thank you very much, Don and Amy.
All right. Motion to accept CA2A then?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. That completes the consent agenda. Takes us to old business. Tonight we have 2 items under old business, the first of which is OB1, the Hauserville Sidewalk Alignment Options. What I saw in the packet was the very short memo. I guess we're going to get...
Short and sweet.
Depends on how you, yeah. So I'm guessing we're going to turn it over to staff at this point and maybe Michael?
I'll just briefly go over the short and sweet memo. Basically at the November 20th meeting, I had presented an option to move forward with this project, and what I had presented was to go from Ivy Hill Lane over to Spring Creek Park Road, with some of the reasoning being that to go all the way up to College Avenue had some serious challenges. And council asked for me to go take a look at, let's look at moving the path to the other side of the road, the western side of the road, the entire length.
Because the challenges associated with going to College Avenue were on the other.
Both sides have challenges, but one of the challenges I pointed out is we had a steep bank that we were going to be cutting into on the eastern side, and also the fact that there's a gas line right where we would need to be putting a footing for a retaining wall, which makes it a little bit difficult. So I had asked Michael Pratt of Keller Engineers to take a look at, let's do something on the other side of the entire length. One of the concerns was we would have a path that went on one side for a portion, and then you cross the Hauserville Road to get to the other side before getting to our destination. So Michael has worked that up. And with that, I will introduce, having gotten beat up pretty good at the last meeting, I decided to bring in this.
So Michael take the beating.
That's right.
I have no good news.
I don't think that's a fair characterization. By the way, since you brought it up, I thought you took it well.
I just want to, I want to make sure I'm on the same page with you. So we've been referring to right side, left side. So everybody in your mind, take a drive from East College Avenue to the park. Left side is the stream side, right side is the Stearns Crossing signs, how we've referenced all this all along. We delivered a concept plan, updated concept plan earlier this month with an associated cost estimate, which is $1.1 million for the left side alignment all the way from East College Avenue to Spring Creek Park. That's part of the bad news. I think the first question that was to be answered was, is it possible? Yeah, it's possible with $1.1 million. There are certain challenges associated with the left side alignment, well characterized as increased challenges. The first one is the required intersection adjustments at East College Avenue to facilitate the alignment. There's no crosswalk across Hauserville Road at that intersection right now. On the southwest quadrant, the bridge, there's a terminal abutment structure mounted guide rail that wraps around a mast arm pole and runs about 100 feet down Hauserville Road right now. So that would have to be attended to get a landing in there, a crosswalk across, and then connect the sidewalk to the landing. Looks like the most advantageous way to do that is to pull the guide rail out about 100 feet out, return it around the mast arm pole, so truncate it, install curb and sidewalk, and then widen the fill section there at the stream that passes underneath Hauserville Road and outlets into Spring Creek, so that you get a clear distance from the curb face to that creek, such that the guide rail can go away. How do you widen that fill mass? You extend the culverts about 10 feet, put in an end wall, maybe 6 foot high, 7 foot high end wall, additional fill there to eliminate the guide rail possibility. That's one look at it. We'll call that probably the best way to do it. I suppose you could keep the guide rail and reinstall it behind the curb and sidewalk as another look. Probably still gonna have to extend the culverts a little bit to get some sufficient width there to do anything at all. So that's one aspect of it. Now you have to bring a crosswalk across from the northwest quadrant to the southwest quadrant, where there is none now. To do that, we need to pull back a concrete median lane divider a little bit, chop it back about 20 feet to clear for the crosswalk, and start installing signal improvements, pedestrian heads, push button actuators, back and forth to allow for that movement to occur, power all that. So that's a cost as well. Repaint all the areas, the crosswalk adjustments. And then coordinate that pretty closely with PennDOT because they're in process of making upgrades to that bridge project that will occur this summer. So you'd have to take a hard look at those plans and make sure everything marries there. And finally get PennDOT to approve it because now you're in there right away. You're out of yours, into theirs in a section. So that becomes a permitting issue, which I'll talk about in a second. The left-hand alignment also, for the first time in all this sidewalk planning, encroaches in the 100-year floodplain of Spring Creek. And you can call that a technicality. It's mapped by FEMA. The floodplain boundary comes up into the roadway, which is well above Spring Creek. It's probably not a real factor. Nonetheless, until you adjust that map, it needs attended to. Under your own floodplain management ordinance, that most likely require a DEP permit, Chapter 106 permit, including probably modeling the stream to prove you don't increase water surface elevations. On the left side, you have to protect the drop-off. We have an extended drop-off from the sidewalk down to the stream. The stream is very close to the roadway for the initial section as you run from East College Avenue down to Ivy Hill. The proposal is to extend the split rail fence that's being considered for frontage along Stearns, another 1,000 feet or so to keep people away from that edge, that fill edge. So that's something new, and I'll call that a negative. There's a significant increase in permitting requirements. The permit all along for all these proposals that's been maybe not is National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit, a stormwater permit. That's based upon how much area you disturb for any one of these alignments. So we'll say that's always been present. But if you consider the left side alignment all the way, we need to add, I mentioned Chapter 106 permitting for floodplain management, probably a water obstruction encroachment permit to extend the culverts and install an end wall, or as a possibility if that can't come in under a general permit. That's a question because Spring Creek is a high quality watershed. Highway occupancy permitting for the work within right-of-way, including the connection subject to all the review and approval. Traffic permit to adjust the traffic signal, to add the pedestrian facilities, maybe timing adjustments up and down the section as well in association with that. I mentioned coordinating the project with the bridge project. And then you lose what I'll call the in-place advantage on the far side of an existing terminal sidewalk that could be readily connected to without all this stuff. So you lose that advantage in considering this. Are there any advantages to 100% left-hand alignment? It avoids the challenges that are unknown and known on the right side. The known challenges are the required cut embankment layback. Needs to be further cut back, laid back, to be able to fit the sidewalk into the section. It's too narrow right now. What if it's hard rock, foot beneath the surface? Not sure. Probably it isn't, but you know, can you excavate that and can you salvage that material for use as fill further down what's required on the right side? So that would go away if you went down the left side. Although the contra to that is the left side requires nothing but fill that now you have to import to the project. You'll generate no cut anywhere if you consider the left hand line. It avoids the gas main conflict. Gas main shouldn't have been there, it is, and there are direct conflicts in some place, not to mention the relative danger of working around it, so that would have to be attended to as part of a right-hand alignment proposition. Do the advantages outweigh the challenges? From a cost perspective, no. Just a reminder in these cost estimates, which have been floating around for a while, but $1.1 million for the left-hand alignment that was delivered this month. If we go back to the, we'll call it the right side crossing at Ivy Hill to the left side alignment, cost estimate was prepared for that in October timeframe. Add in the gas main work, allowing $50,000 to attend to that, it's about $880,000. So it's about a $200,000 delta. So do the advantages outweigh the cost delta? No. It's looking like the left side is significantly more expensive than consideration of the right side. How about from an excavation perspective? Maybe the advantage of the right side crossing at Ivy Hill left side is you generate cut if it's not hard rock. It can be placed as fill such that it's more or less balanced. You still have to pay though to cut that and bang it back. You have to pay to move it up to the fill side. You have to pay to place the fill material there. So how does that weigh against importing all the fill? You know, that's not a significant advantage. So you might say, what are the recommendations? You know, I don't know if we have any solid recommendations. What we can do is characterize the pros and cons of each. So when you contrast the right-hand East College Avenue to Ivy Hill, left-hand Ivy Hill to Park alignment with the full left-hand alignment, less estimated construction costs, less permitting requirements and therefore costs, and that's significant, by the way. Less required right-of-way requirements, it's about 0.62 acres on the right than left versus about 1.04 acres on the left side, just because of the fill outslope requirements. More challenges with laying back the cut slope and contending with obstacles such as driveways and retaining walls along the way. But it seems like, you know, from a pure cost perspective, for sure, right than left is the more advantageous alignment. And that still leaves what I haven't mentioned, Dawn mentioned it, we'll call it the half section where you would only consider installation from Ivy Hill up to the park at this time. That avoids a lot of these negatives, avoids the intersection for now, avoids the permitting requirements. Obviously, it's less cost. What it doesn't do, though, is establish a pedestrian connection to East College Avenue at this time. I would say that if you did consider that at all, that doesn't preclude that connection from being established in the future. It kind of just sets it aside for now. And that cost estimate came in the $550,000 range. Well, that's what we can see.
All right, anything to add to that before we open up the questions?
Well, just to emphasize the time delay if we go the full length. With the Chapter 105 and Chapter 106 permits on the left-hand route the whole way, months. Conservation District, DEP, they 6 to 8 months to review a permit. One of the things, if we would look at just from Ivy Hill out to Spring Creek Park, if we do not have to do an NPDES permit, is simply an ENS control plan. I mean, we need to control any erosion, but that is, if we're under an acre, we're not required to actually get a permit. We have to have a plan in place. It doesn't eliminate that, but that is a huge time savings. And my argument at the last meeting was that, according to the people who live out there, that is the part of the path that they're seeing people using now. You know, they're on the road now, or off the edge of the berm. So I would really like to try to get that in this year. And as Michael said, it doesn't preclude going out to College Avenue, and I use this as an example. If College Avenue, they would do a road diet and say we're only going to have one lane each way, and now that second lane becomes a great big old bike path on either side, pedestrian path, then we would want to do that second phase because we'd have something to tie into. But to go out there now, and I've threatened to use this term a couple times, a path to nowhere, but if there's really no chance, right?
Strike that from the record, please.
I say that as a joke, but right now, there's nowhere to go once you get to College Avenue. If in the future something happens there, and when we've gone from Ivy Hill out to the park, we can still decide a few years from now, okay, we're going to do that second half. It doesn't stop us from moving forward, but if we could at least get the portion that is getting some use now in place, I think that would be the greatest benefit. And as Mike pointed out, that actually...
Yeah, that alignment ties back to one of the secondary investment corridors that was identified in the pedestrian master plan, because it did recognize the engineering barriers associated with College Avenue right now.
So we would be getting something accomplished that we really need, and in a budget that I think we can handle right now. 1.1 million for an extra length of path that it will have much less use than the portion that goes from Ivy Hill out to the park.
Other staff comments before we open it up to council? No? Just clarification on your comment about recognizing the challenges on College Avenue. You're talking about the cut through College Avenue and ever getting a path there, not necessarily challenges at Houserville Road and College Avenue.
Correct. Yeah,
that's an important distinction.
Yeah, when the plan looked at it, it looked at that 30,000-foot view and said, you know, what's the realistic possibility of making a point-to-point connection along College Avenue? And that's kind of the scale that it was looking at and saying there are significant barriers to doing that at this point.
Right. So the thought was, as we've always been talking about, you know, Houserville Road to Puddintown to Orchard to campus as an alternative.
Yeah, and the secondary connection that is shown in the plan actually does come down Ivy Hill, and it ties into Houserville at that point. So that's, you know, the recommendation that Dawn had shared at the last meeting, and, you know, what you're hearing tonight is that still accomplishes that goal. Certainly, you know, wouldn't preclude doing that next section as we see redevelopment along College Avenue. You know, as we do things with the form-based code, there's a great possibility that you see things start to happen along College Avenue that would trip the threshold, essentially, to make that a much more impactful investment. But right now, it has limited value.
And am I also correct that there is potential for the development of the, what was it?
The Rock?
Yeah. It used to be something trails, and I can't remember, proposed plan.
At the corner.
Yeah, at the corner. The most recently, the church had owned it. That's now in different ownership, but should that property develop, they would have some sidewalk requirements. Is that correct?
Most certainly.
And so that may be an option for us to actually get some or all of a portion of that right-hand side connection from Ivy Hill back to College Avenue as well.
That would be a large chunk.
All right, Susan's chomping at the bit, so let's get going. But before she starts, just clarification, because this didn't come clear in the memo. $600,000 to build Ivy Hill to Spring Creek, approximately $800,000 or 800 and something to come from College Avenue to Spring Creek Park on the right side of the road, another $300,000 to do the same thing on the left side of the road. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm not good at visualizing. I was out there to take a look around a little bit, but it's even hard to look around because the traffic is whizzing by from College Avenue. So on the right-hand side option, say for a bike path, someone would be coming down College Avenue from Dale Summit, but there's not a safe place to ride a bike down College Avenue on that side of the road, correct? But the road diet would allow for that if, in fact, PennDOT ever decided to.
If something like that ever
Right.
happened, that would make it a viable option.
Right.
But right now, you don't want to be on College Avenue.
No. So if somebody is on sort of the far end above, up in Dale Summit and wants to get to Spring Creek Park, not just from Ivy Hill Road intersection on Hauserville, is there a way, is there connectivity with the bike path coming through Stearns Crossing, going up to, say, Independence Place? Is there access? It's circuitous, it's not a straight shot as it would be down College Ave, but I guess my question is, what is the connectivity from Ivy Hill? Who's coming down Ivy Hill needing access to Spring Creek Park? Not that I'm saying nobody does, but
Yeah, if you
is
were
it
in the
more
Dale,
than a
if
few-
you were in the Dale Summit area
Right.
and you were not able to use College Avenue,
and you can't.
how would you ultimately try to traverse on a bike or even walking?
Right.
From somewhere in Dale Summit to.
We're gonna pull up the PED plan.
Yeah.
I've done that.
My recollection was, one of the ways that we had talked about, and I'm not sure if this made it into the final version of the PED plan, one of the things we had talked about was utilization of Commercial Boulevard. And Commercial Boulevard, even though there is a parking lot at the end of Commercial Boulevard, puts you in very close proximity to connections with what is now Winfield Heights.
Yeah, it's like you could go from, is that Pembroke?
Yes?
Off of
Pembroke.
By
Gerald.
By Gerald, because we've looked at
Pembroke,
plans
you
there.
go down Gerald, go down Pembroke. Pembroke takes you to Winfield
Right.
Heights. Winfield Heights takes you into Stearns Crossing, and that takes you right down. So
You can do it.
on local roads, you could bike the entire way to Hauserville Road. Or actually, they're all sidewalk, so you could walk or bike.
Pembroke is not sidewalk.
No, you're right.
No,
Pembroke.
I used to live on Pembroke, it's not.
Now, once we hit Winfield Heights, then you're into sidewalk area.
Yeah, but I don't think it's Pembroke, it's a different street that connects, isn't it, with Winfield? In any case, you're right. There's an.
No, it's been.
I think it's
No, it's
Pembroke.
Pembroke, I'm looking at it now.
Okay.
But
Oh, no,
the
you're right,
traffic
it is
on
Pembroke.
Pembroke is not, the traffic on Pembroke is,
Residential.
somebody could ride a bike on Pembroke where they're.
It's kind of busy,
Yeah, okay.
and they drive kind of fast, especially now that Winfield Heights is open. I'm just being honest.
Oh,
I
no.
live there.
No, you're not
Okay.
getting
Yeah,
argued.
Complain.
I guess because the reason I'm
But I
thinking
didn't wanna
about
bring
this
it
is it's a
down.
big investment to go on the right side, and if it's going out to College Ave, who's coming off College Ave to get on the sidewalk? So that's my question. So, but somebody who wants to come from Dale Summit, can they get to the intersection to get to Spring Creek? And then the idea is to get across town, then they would continue over to Puddingtown and then
Right.
come across. So we're kind of building that connectivity from one end to another. I mean, that's how I see the
And
sidewalk
the Pembroke
investment.
connection is, I mean, while it's good to think of it in those terms, think of the PED plan as a series
Right.
of projects that we need to do in order to build up that secondary
Right.
connectivity. And so clearly, if we were able to have the connectivity to the park, you've already connected essentially at Ivy Hill. You would have already connected Stearns Crossing, you would have connected Winfield, and while not ideal in any way, you made a connection to Pembroke at that point. And so, yes, somebody that was dedicated could certainly get to campus using that path.
And they cross at Ivy Hill to
To
the
the-
left side
to the
of Hauserville and then
street.
go down to the park from there. And there would be nothing in the first plan that you mentioned, the $600,000 plan, that starts at Ivy Hill and goes to, so there's nothing from that intersection out to College Ave under that $600,000 plan. And there's a private property between Ivy Hill and the former church property, which has the steep grade, correct?
And it also has, that's the one with the stone wall.
Yes.
And that would need to be dismantled
Yeah.
and built back.
Yep.
So there's cost. And then we did have the experience with Seven Brew that they had a similar situation where they had to have the sidewalk as part of the development plan, but they took the fee in lieu because the grade was too steep. I mean, the grade at the church, former church property is steeper than I think.
Yes.
On Branch
More
Road,
yeah,
but so.
steeper and
You know,
more
I
height
mean,
to it.
I'm anticipating a property owner might say they too would take the fee in lieu, but if we had some connectivity that's a little more secure, it's because College Avenue isn't traversable by bike, not
No.
safely. So, okay, so those, I think I'm picturing that, and there's also a sidewalk on the corner of the right-hand side on College Avenue. It's a sidewalk that has no connectivity as it is.
It's sidewalk to nowhere.
I didn't want to say it.
Oh my God.
And it has a crosswalk there across to
Yes.
Lamont.
Yeah, so
And there's no,
there's about 150 feet of sidewalk there in place now. So at some point in the future, if College Avenue would open up, we could tie into that. We don't have to get into PennDOT permitting process because we're already past PennDOT into just township. So that's really the way to go.
and the other piece of this is with the conservation permits that you're both talking about, there's a time delay and there's no guarantee that those permits would be awarded, correct? This is a 100-year floodplain area. There's a lot
I
of.
think they would be,
Yeah?
but it
Okay.
may be several submissions
Okay.
and, like I said, 6 to 8 months for an initial review.
Yeah, makes it a 2027 project, for sure.
Okay. And then that also would be after PennDOT did the work on the bridge on College Ave. So that would be a
That
project
could
done
be
and then-
another whole,
Right, okay.
I'm not sure how we would get those to coordinate,
Yeah,
but,
the project, and one of the reasons that this particular project is being considered for 2026 is the fact that there's gonna be a significant period of the construction season where that road is gonna be closed.
Right.
And that gives us the opportunity to
Right.
do some of the things that we need to that likely aren't gonna exist in 2027. So that's why the emphasis has been placed on this particular project, is from a time standpoint, this is something we can get into, we could more readily construct it with less interference and get that into service. So, but the other issues that have been identified on the left side, on the stream side, actually create additional issues that have to be addressed. And they would have to be addressed somehow around the same time that PennDOT was trying to reconstruct the bridge on College Avenue, we're gonna miss that window.
Yes.
And then last but not least, on the left side, the crossing across College Ave would go over towards Pike Street on that side, but there's no sidewalk on that side of Pike Street. There would need to be another crossing across Pike Street at the intersection to get to. So the left side would allow for somebody to get from College Ave down without crossing, but to get there, they'd still have to cross several other places. Okay. Okay.
Tracy?
I got completely confused with everything.
Oh, sorry.
But, so the total $1,100,000 is for both sides or just one side? I just want to clarify.
One side.
One side all the way
The
to
left
left.
side.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, because I got confused with 300,000 and then another, it just got confusing to me, sorry. Okay, and so we're talking about going back to the original plan of doing the right side going towards Spring Creek Park, correct? Am I understanding?
Well, we're on the right side from Ivy Hill
And then,
to a point.
And then crossing.
Where we cross, and then it's on the left side in the Stearns Meadow. It'll follow the majority of the Stearns Meadow.
okay,
So for clarity,
Yeah.
the crossing to the left side from Ivy Hill will not be at Ivy Hill.
It could be.
It
Right
could
now,
be.
what we're showing right now is a place about 150 feet from Ivy Hill, simply because there's a bit of a hill, a crest there that it makes it a little bit better. It's not totally unsafe at Ivy Hill. but
And
we're
you
just-
evaluated that, correct?
Yes.
The ability to
Yeah, so-
actually cross directly at Ivy Hill.
And there are
to the
some,
street.
and there are some benefits to that. It's not a mid-block crossing because we do have a road there. But either way, we would be crossing in that vicinity and then being, right there it is.
okay, and then that total cost would be 550,000, is that correct, that I'm understanding that?
Yeah, to clarify total, that's raw construction dollars, so it doesn't include right-of-way, it doesn't include design and permitting,
Gotcha,
so
okay,
we can multiply everything up.
And we sort of have an agreement on the right-of-way, we agreed that we would not require sidewalk on the other side if a sidewalk gets built on the Stearns Meadows side.
okay.
And in exchange for that, we're asking for a fairly significant easement
Okay.
of almost an acre, a little less than that. I think it was 0.7 or something, but anyhow.
So, if we did the latter, which is the original, going back to that plan, and knowing the length of time that it takes to get these permits done, and knowing the type of situations we're running into on either side, I don't know where this fits in the other plan that Mike was referencing, because that probably predated me being on council. I think this was the first time that it was referenced. So with knowing that and like our long-term goals, is there a plan if we decide to go with this, the original version, I'll say now the latter,
Yeah.
because that was the latter in the presentation. When we decide to do that, is there, knowing that there is a elongated process to even getting permits, is there a way that we can maybe think forward-thinking and thinking like, if we complete this 2026, how many years can we look down the line and maybe consider that and start to get the process rolling? Being proactive instead of reactive?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the
That's my-
things,
that's
yeah,
just
one of
my-
the
my
things that
concern is I think sometimes we're reactive, and I want us to be kind of like forward-thinking, because this is something we're gonna grow. Or we're
Right,
gonna-
absolutely.
yeah.
One of the things that we do, and we do this every year, is through the capital improvement program. You know, we do try to schedule out, when we're able to attempt or undertake either full projects or portions of projects. And so, for example, in this year, in 2025, we had some money in the CIP to work on design elements related to layouts and some things related to Hauserville, to this, what we're talking about tonight. We definitely have the ability to do that, and I think that as we move forward, we will continue to address kind of that forward thinking and scheduling of these various walkway, bikeway, pedestrian way improvements over time. So I think we have the mechanism, and I think we have the ability, and we have used the same process for quite some time to incrementally get us to the point where we're ready to go. Again, the trigger for this particular project this year was the fact, knowing 2 years ago that this bridge on College Avenue was going to be closed. And so we did respond accordingly, but I think we have all the tools necessary to be able to program additional elements of this system as we go forward.
And I think we've sort of done that. I mean, we have more than conceptual design for that next phase. I mean, it's not final design by any means, but we've already, so when we would be scheduling that or programming that, I mean, we have a solid idea of a number for it. It's not, you know, sometimes when we cast estimate out in the future, we're just taking a good guess. This goes beyond that. There's been design brought into the estimate. So in some ways, I think we already got a good start on it.
Good, okay, that's all I have.
Okay, couple of questions, since Michael's here. You mentioned the left side, obviously we're in the floodplain because the floodplain extends over the road, right?
Into the roadway lane, yes.
Into the roadway. Okay, so it doesn't extend to the right side.
Correct.
Okay, that's an important distinction.
It is.
Secondly, where the crosswalk, I'm going to call it a sidewalk spur, as opposed to, that was built as part of that. Where it then bends over and ends, that's outside the PennDOT right away?
Yes.
So just bear with me for a second. In theory, we could cross there because we'd be on a local road, right? Not saying it's safe.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just saying
that would be totally
we're
within
rid of
our right of way and out of any PennDOT involvement.
Yeah, and the complications that Michael noted with rebuilding or reconfiguring that. And again, this is just a question. I'm going to go with, you know, the consensus here, I think, is where we're headed. I just had clarifying questions. It's funny that you brought up timing, and you brought up proactive, this sore subject for me, because this actually showed up on our capital improvement plan, what, 10 years ago?
Oh, yeah.
It was proactive back then, but in the 10-year span, and now it looks reactive, but we intended to be proactive. Would have cost a lot less back then.
Yes, it
So
would.
if it wasn't, in my opinion, if it wasn't for the opportunity that's being presented to us here this summer with the road closure, I would say I don't really care that it takes 6 or 8 months if that's what it takes to do the right thing here, to do the right long-term thing. I've waited 10 years. I can wait another 6 to 9 months.
It's actually 11 years.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, it's a big help.
Even longer.
I'm usually not even that close in my guesses, so that's pretty good. A couple more comments. I understand the whole Pembroke connection, but there's no sidewalks in Pembroke. There's parking on the road. It's not very pedestrian or bike hospitable. It's a connection, but it's certainly not one I'd be proud to identify on a map as an alternative.
Understood.
So the tiers, I think this is where you got confused. $600,000 to stick with original plan. Ivy Hill side of the road, cross somewhere, finish on the left side, get us to Spring Creek.
Okay.
800,000 or closer to 900. 900,000 to do that, but extend out to College Avenue on the right side of the road.
Okay.
Tie into the existing spur.
So for an apples to apples comparison, then it would be that 800,000 versus the 900,000 versus the 1.1 million. That's the apples to apples.
Okay.
Left side, 1 million, right side, left side combo, 900,000.
Yep.
Intermediate step, 600,000 to fill Ivy Hill to Spring Creek. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you
We
very
need
much.
to add one apple though to that comparison, $200,000 delta, but the permanent requirements, that cost would be extraordinary. So I
Okay,
think you need
that's
to-
outside of the 1.1.
That's right.
Okay.
So I would think,
It's an important point,
think about 100,000.
in addition to the time, right?
Time and money.
All right, so, my question would be then, and we're not gonna answer it, I'm just putting it out there. We go with the original plan, and we decide down the road, we're gonna build the rest, either side of the road. Chances are gonna cost a lot more than the incremental cost figures we're getting tonight, just something to be aware of. You build it now, it's gonna cost less. And if we go with this, we pretty much ruled out the left side. Because we're not gonna go left side, cross over to the right side, go down the right side for a while and cross over the left side. So is that a fair assumption that,
Yeah, you almost can't effectuate a second crosswalk in your right of way. It's dangerous,
yeah.
literally unacceptably dangerous.
So by moving forward with the original plan, we're pretty much moving the left side option permanently off the table. This one, everybody understand
The
that.
full left-hand side.
The full left-hand side.
Yes.
Yeah, in fairness to Dustin, and I gotta say this, if this is where we end up, this was not a waste of time. I think Dustin brought up some really valid points in the last meeting about, hey, have we really vetted out the entire left side? And we hadn't. We had kind of ballpark vetted it.
I think we knew that there were some issues, and then Michael's analysis shows what they are.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, it was good to do. I agree, because there was points
I didn't
where.
suspect it was this magnitude when we were out there
Yeah.
3 weeks ago. I didn't see this difference, so.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the first questions somebody would ask when we do this, is, wait a minute, why didn't you just bring it, on the left side the whole way? Now we have an answer, assuming that's, where we head.
No, Mayor, you said that if we do the original, the left side is permanently off the table?
It probably is, because of the fact that we would then have to create another crossing.
Gotcha.
Because we're already asking people to come down the right side, cross to the left side. So, I
Yeah,
don't know.
the other way to think about this is the original option and the College Avenue option. Both of those already are both side options, if you want to think of it that way. You're going from the eastern side of Hauserville Road to the western side, and the western side is the stream side, and whatever point you get across Hauserville Road and you're into the meadow, that will run the whole length to the Spring Creek Park. So if you have that on either one of the two, there's really no need then for the full length left-hand option, stream side option.
Okay.
At that point, there's no reason, I don't know, how many feet is that roughly? Is it 800, 1,000 feet? So there's no reason to pursue that additional 1,000 foot construction, which would make it a full-length left-hand connection. I didn't mean to confuse it.
No,
Well, let me actually bring up something. If we were to do the left-hand side out to College Avenue, anyone coming down Ivy Hill who would want to go out to College Avenue is now crossing the road there. Whereas if we keep it on the right-hand side, they would come down and they would not have to cross Hauserville Road at all. And I think that a fair amount of traffic would come from Ivy Hill as well as the park. So we might be eliminating a crossing for anyone who would be, if anything would ever be out at College Avenue, that they would want to get onto a bike lane they would not have to cross the road.
Is my board up here?
No, I think,
Well,
go ahead.
No,
No,
you're
you
fine.
go ahead.
I was, the one thing I was gonna point out in that, if you did this design, you do cross Hauserville.
Yeah.
You just cross it at the intersection, right there at Hauserville Road. So right here would be your crossing.
Well, I wanted to go back to a point that you made, like, you said it's been 11 years, and it's something that I was considering too, like, we want to do the best thing for the least amount of cost. You made the point, and it's somewhere where I was leaning too, if we did that and then the right-hand side, and if that's permanently off the table, then we fix a larger problem for a lesser amount than maybe down the road. And so that's the,
Yeah.
do you understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, let me, one thing that Adam brought up that probably factors into this, I think, because it seems as though we're coalescing back around the original design. I mean, we all left here pretty excited about what Dustin had suggested and thinking it was a lot more doable and long-term. Adam mentioned the fact that we could get the sidewalk on the right side done as part of a land development plan, at least part of it. Or sizable fee in lieu. We might have to tweak our fee in lieu ratio in order to cover that one. Well, of course, because they would be responsible for College Avenue also, right?
Correct.
So if you counted the entire fee in lieu for both, put it together for Hauserville, you'd get further.
It would be Ivy Hill too, all of those sidewalks they'd be responsible for all three sides.
So we'd get, unlike Hills Plaza, where the fee in lieu was far less than what it would actually cost. You know, we now know the incremental cost here is around, at least in today's dollars, $300,000 or $400,000
Correct.
for that stretch. The difference between the 6 and the 9.
Yeah.
So I think my point is that I'm slowly coming back to our original. It's sounding more justifiable now, despite the fact that if we end up punching it out to College Avenue, when we do, it's gonna cost a lot more than what it would cost today. So for me, it's down to the original or tackling the right side as part of this today in today's dollars. And the only thing that gives me pause there is, could we get that done for us? I don't know.
I mean, the only other thing I would throw out there is to potentially consider, and I see where you're headed with that, and again, as the former transportation planner, I do fundamentally agree. You know, if you're gonna make that connection, make it when you can, and, you know, you set the stage for something in the future. I think there's an opportunity, even if council wants to go that route, to break this into a two-phase project. You know, you've got one that you can complete this year. You know the other one's there. You have a fairly reasonable, you know, idea of cost today. You know, it's not going to move today. There simply would be too much to advance that one, you know, in today. But, you know, you could then start building a strategy of either there's a land development plan that's coming in the next couple years, or you start pursuing grant funds and packaging it in a way that you build that to lessen the burden of the cost on College Township taxpayer. You know, and timing then becomes a question mark for you is, you know, yeah, we're committing to doing the two-sided approach. We're going to do it as a two-phase project. You know, when do we want to move that second phase? And that gets into a CIP discussion here at the council level. Is that something that's in the next 5 years? Is it in a 10-year window? You know, that's really up to you and how you want to pursue it at that point.
Okay.
Preferential phrasing would be two separate projects to avoid the common plan of development implications that would force you to MDS permit.
Understood, yeah. Yeah.
And that would be a true statement, because if the other developer builds it, it's entirely
right.
separate.
So you're building a project from Spring Creek Park to Ivy Hill. And at some point in the future, you're building a project from Ivy Hill to College Avenue as a separate and distinct project eventually it'll become one cohesive system.
Thanks for that, Mike. I think that was helpful. Are we, it's not an action item, but we do need to provide some consensus direction to staff going forward. Is there, at this point, any opposition to sticking with the original plan and keeping in our back pocket the options that Mike just articulated?
No.
Put it on the capital plan, and if a development comes along in the meantime, we get it done sooner. I see head nodding.
Yes.
I agree with the original plan. I think Ivy Hill to Spring Creek Park, as we discussed with the second phase, to College Ave, and I'm comfortable with that too, because right now we don't have a lot of people coming off College Ave onto Spring Creek Park, or Hauserville Road, wherever we are. We're over there. But, and then the other point is, yes, it's a bit of a gamble, but if somebody does develop that property, then that is a private partner. Yep. On that cost, and I think that's something we could live with if it's in a 2-year, 3-year part of the CIP.
Nothing 2 and 3, no longer than 5.
And I just remembered, before the church owned it, it was a proposed Springfield Trails development in that area.
All right, Don, you feel better? It just took us longer to convince us.
I promise I'll never use the term
yeah.
sidewalk to nowhere ever again.
It's a trigger word. You see what happens when you say
What were
it?
we using? Stub? I thought that the stub was perfectly fine.
No, spur.
No, it's stub.
Spur is a transportation word. Stub is path to nowhere. It's a stub.
Well, this is, the consensus is important because obviously come, what is it, June of this year, PennDOT's closing down the bridge, right, for construction. You know, so we want to be in a position where we can hit these timelines as well. Yeah. So the consensus around, or the coalescing around a particular option here is really pretty important if we want to try to achieve.
And PennDOT won't change anything on the spur side. The project that they're doing, the spur will stay the same.
Yes,
what would happen is the work will be done on the left side.
That is correct.
And once that work is done, we'd have to undo that work to do the work of putting it on the left side.
You're
so that is
absolutely
closing,
right.
that is closing that door to be done as easily as it could be now, but that's fine.
I think you have consensus. I think we're going along with Don, kicking and dragging. But he brought in a hired gun to help.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to come here alone again.
This still allows connectivity for people in the Dale Summit area. It's not seamless end-to-end connectivity.
And not ideal.
But we're getting there, and it's not limiting it to Stern Crossing residents. This is opening up the possibility to people on the other side.
Right.
Yeah. The thing about the PED plan, there isn't a single magic bullet in any component of the PED plan where that if you build that particular link,
it all comes together.
That it all comes together. There are multiple points of failure at the moment, and until we catch up with those, but this is one. I mean, this is one of those, and so I think that's a good way to
it does.
think
It opens
about
up the potential. It opens that piece up. Okay.
So we have consensus. Michael, thank you for presenting this in the concise and digestible options, and obviously your patience with us.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, good discussion. OB2.
We can
Our
call it
second-
Dustin's Folly.
What's that?
We can call this new sidewalk Dustin's Folly.
Was your mic on?
Yeah.
Little present for Dustin.
Oh, poor Dustin.
Folly is a British word.
Second item of old business tonight is single-use plastics, survey proposal, discussion, potentially action.
I'm going to make this one really simple. This discussion actually has evolved since the memo went into the agenda. So I'm not asking you for action tonight, I'm just providing you a quick update. One of the options on the table is what is in front of you, that Zen City proposal to do some of the survey work for us as part of the single-use plastics. A couple things have happened since then. There's a little bit of uncertainty around one of our members as to how they want to proceed. So that's one. And then the second is there's another option that came to the fore to potentially utilize Penn State to help us with this at a significantly reduced or no cost. But we aren't at the position right now to bring that forward as a proposal. So there's a couple things in play at the moment that evolved, like I said, after this memo was put together. So I just wanted to provide that update, not asking for any action, just sharing that out with you this evening.
All right, questions for Mike on that?
I was just surprised that just the survey function on Zen City was $35,000. And it's only the survey function.
Right.
That's a lot of money.
It's a little zesty, in my opinion, and I think that's what led us to start
Understood.
talking about some other options. I unfortunately wasn't able to attend the last meeting of the work group, so I don't have a whole lot of those details to share with you tonight about the other proposal that's out there, but I know there's another proposal out there, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
And we already know what one council member feels about
Yes.
the cost of the survey, so.
Yes. We have his reflections.
And he's our resident finance guru. All right. That concludes old business, if there aren't any further questions. That takes us to new business. Tonight we have 2 items under new business, the first of which is NB2, Shiloh Road Corridor Development Partnership. Again, not an action item, just kind of an update, feel us out on, or get us up to speed on what's going on, right?
Okay, so, earlier tonight you talked about Crew 814 plan, and one of the conditions that's out there is the transportation impact study. This is an update on where that stands at the moment. So again, just a little bit of background. Both College and Benner Township along the Shiloh Road corridor are seeing renewed interest in private development. And there are primarily 4 tracks that have been in play out there that basically accommodate somewhere in the neighborhood of 220 acres of developable property. Those 4 tracks, we have seen development plans on 2 of them here at College Township, one being Maxwell, and one that you saw earlier tonight, Crew 814. Benner Township is aware of a development proposal for the 3rd tract. We reference it as Ferris. It's been talked about in the media a little bit about a potential, auto dealership and other uses out on that tract. And the final tract, the Clare tract, is actually the largest tract in play in this corridor. There's been a lot of speculation as to what could potentially happen out there. And we're starting to get some idea based on what's here, or at least what they're contemplating, based on what's been put together here. So what's before you tonight is what we're going to reference as the Shiloh Road Corridor Development Partnership. This is something you don't see very often in the world of land development and particularly in transportation infrastructure development. This is a collaborative effort by the respective developers on all 4 of those tracks that I referenced. This effort primarily being facilitated by one of the developers, Mr. Ferris, with consulting support from Delta Development, as well as Wooster Associates, that's their traffic engineer. It contemplates and is comprised of 3 really main components. One is estimates for trip generation associated with known or potential uses on those respective tracks. The highlight, the headline associated with that is currently the average daily traffic on Shiloh Road is in the ballpark of 13,000 vehicles per day. Based on the potential developments, or at least what's in the mind of the developers out there, you're going to see a significant increase of traffic on that road to an estimated 44,000 vehicles a day. So you're more than tripling the potential traffic on that road. And when that happens, obviously there needs to be some significant infrastructure investment on the road itself to make that traffic flow at acceptable levels. The second piece of this is the identification of those types of infrastructure improvements that would need to be made to accommodate those cumulative traffic impacts. And we'll talk about those in a little bit more detail in a minute. The elegant part of this is how Mr. Ferris and his consultants have come together and packaged a financing plan for those transportation improvements that'll be comprised of private developer contributions, PennDOT funding, a transportation infrastructure investment fund grant and a transportation infrastructure investment fund grant from Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. What's not included in the financial plan that's proposed right now is any municipal funding. Nothing from Benner, nothing from College. We are sitting on some funds here in College Township that are still in play and could be discussed as part of this, but right now the financial package does not include any of that. So let me take a little bit of time and walk through what you have in your handouts in terms of those three main elements. The first is the trip generation, and what's included in this piece of your packet here, your first attachment, actually breaks down the anticipated traffic generation from each of the respective partners in this corridor. So the first is PennDOT, that's existing traffic. It also contemplates the existing growth rate for traffic in that corridor. If nothing happens, traffic is going to continue to grow on Shiloh Road, just based on the associated developments in and around that area. Like I said, right now it's about 13,000 traffic or vehicles per day. The Ferris proposal out in Benner Township is looking to generate almost 12,000 additional trips in that corridor. The Rogers track, that's our friends at Burkentine there, the Crew 814 that we talked about, roughly 7,000 trips into the track or into the corridor. The Clare property, based on what they kind of have in their mind's eye for potential development, 6,400 ADT. And finally, Maxwell, who we've seen some of his land development proposals here already, roughly 5,500 trips today or to be generated. That gets us to that 44,000 number. You'll see the percentage totals broken down in that spreadsheet. PennDOT's about 30% of the total traffic. Mr. Ferris about 27%. Rogers 16, Clare 15, and Maxwell about 12 to get to the 100% of that 44,000. And that's important because the way this has been put together in terms of the financing plan actually assigns a cost associated with trips that are being generated in this corridor. So before I get to the financing plan, I want to talk a little bit about what's being thought of and what's being proposed right now. Again, working with the respective traffic engineers, so Wooster and Associates on the private side. On our side, Trans Associates has been part of this discussion, and then also McCormick Taylor, working on behalf of Benner Township, has been involved in this larger corridor-wide traffic study. And it's broken into really three primary locations. The first one we'll reference as Shiloh Road and Spring Valley Road. That's in Benner Township. That's that small road that kind of comes out and ties in. That's the Ferris development, as well as the Clare property development across the road. The second is the Shiloh Road and Rogers site. That's Burkentine. That's Crew 814. And the last one is Shiloh and Trout Road. That's Maxwell. So let me walk through here real quick. The first segment, Shiloh Road and Spring Valley. Again, as I mentioned, the Ferris and Clare properties. Everything you see on the board right now in red would be new. So this is expanding right turn lanes, some additional capacity through the travel lanes, as well as a new access from the Clare tract itself. What you can't clearly see on here, there's a traffic signal in the middle of this. All total, they're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.7 million worth of improvements in this section. PennDOT would be on the hook for about 1.3 million of those. Ferris, 375,000, and the Clare track about $150,000 worth of improvements in this section. Again, new right turn lanes, new left turn lanes on both sides, and the new signal would be what's currently envisioned in terms of the traffic improvements needed to accommodate the influx of new traffic. Yeah, please.
Is that signal is in College Township or Benner?
It's in Benner.
Okay.
Yeah, we're very close to the line. I believe, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, this building right here is approximately the line. I think it's right
That
in-
is
Is that
that's the
Hartman?
Hartman
The
Agency.
Hartman
That's in Benner.
That's still in Benner,
That's
so
still in Benner,
It's
okay.
still in Benner.
we're close, but just over the line essentially. The second part is our, again, Burkentine. This is Shiloh and Rogers site access as it's known now. Lindsay, you had the street name if you remember right.
It was
Beckham
Beckham Boulevard.
Beckham Boulevard. In this section, again, same development. The red is what's new. You're seeing right turn lanes with pretty significant storage, 225-foot storage. New left turn lane, 175-foot storage, and there's a signal at this location as well. All total, you're looking at $1.2 million worth of project here. PennDOT, just over $1 million. Rogers, 150,000 in terms of their impact. And then last but not least, Shiloh and Trout. Again, same protocol. Everything in red is new. So you're looking at new left turn lanes, new right turn lanes on either side of the intersection. And yes, there is another signal at this location. So again, this one's roughly a $1.2 million overall project. So 3 new signals, multiple left and right turn lane improvements. But based on what all of the traffic engineers have put forward, it would function, Shiloh Road would continue to function at acceptable levels of service, and the approach roads themselves would continue to function at acceptable levels of service with these improvements. What's yet to be determined, obviously, is the impacts of our changes in zoning out here, but that is out beyond what we would anticipate these developers needing to address as part of their overall plans. I think you're going to see a spider web kind of develop over time of different types of road accesses, and they will become relief valves depending on where people are headed within the larger Dale Summit. But right now, this, and again, I will attest from my years in transportation planning, you don't see this type of an approach. This is pretty innovative and creative to see 4 developers and PennDOT at the table at the same time working together to develop a corridor-wide plan to accommodate this type of growth and development in 2 municipalities.
Makes me warm and fuzzy.
And in advance of any development.
In advance, yes. We talked about proactive, Tracy. This is proactive. Oftentimes, you see it kind of an incremental build towards transportation improvements. This is contemplating the whole package at one time. So that's pretty innovative, and credit to their consultants for putting this together, and credits to all the parties to coming to the table and having these discussions, because this doesn't happen very often. The last piece of the puzzle is the financing plan, and that was the last attachment in your packet. And this is where it gets, like I said, it gets kind of interesting. Each of the developers are assigned trip allocations based on what they're proposing, and those trip allocations come with an assessment towards the partnership budget. So based on the improvements that we've just talked about, those $150,000, $100,000 type dollar improvements that we were referencing, that's one piece of their contribution. The other piece is a assessment that adds to their overall contribution towards the overall project. We're talking about roughly a $5.8, $5.9 million corridor investment. The Clare property itself, you'd be looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 400,000. The Ferris property, overall, their total assessment plus improvements, 870,000. And Maxwell, 330,000. And last but not least, Rogers, about 440,000. Total private developer contributions over $2 million. The Transportation Infrastructure Investment Fund grant that was been referenced, $2.7 million. And then also a potential PennDOT grant of $1 million, just about $1.1 million total, to bring that grand total of investment in the corridor of about $5.9 million to the fore. We wanted to share this with you tonight to give you an idea of what's happening out here. It also dovetails with a lot of the work that you've been doing in terms of land development plans, one of which you acted on this evening, to give you a snapshot of the type of things that are coming. This is also a lead into a discussion at some point for council about where our investment ends up in the corridor, because we have roughly $325,000, I think, available, two $100,000 grants, one from through Representative Takak, one through Representative Benninghoff, plus money that's been accumulated over time associated with the potential signal there at Trout Road. So that's another piece of the discussion. It ultimately leads to, we're going to get to a point where there's an agreement between all the parties, both municipalities, all four developers, and PennDOT. That agreement is in draft form at the moment. The big ask tonight is questions on what I just shared out to you, but also authorization from council for us to continue these discussions and engage our solicitor to start reviewing this draft agreement. At some point, we're looking at a joint meeting of everybody to kind of hammer through this and see if there's any immediate red flags that we need to be concerned about.
Okay, first shot at red flags is tonight, right? Let's tackle this, each one of those handouts, questions on each one of the handouts first, and then we'll circle back to the big picture. Anyone have, Adam, do you have anything else to add to this?
No, I think Mike covered everything very well. We have a few more details, but not enough to spend a lot of time on tonight. Just so council is aware, we're anticipating that this or pieces of this is going to be back in front of you over the next several months. So this is kind of the first foray into, understanding what this concept is, and as we continue, it'll be more detail about how it's going to work.
So let's tackle the first piece of information, which was the total trip generation. Questions, comments on that one? Tracy, Susan?
So the Clare track is in both College and Benner. Then, and that 15% trip generation, just curious, it's not developed. I mean, there's some idea, but there's no, so this is an estimate, and that would potentially be adjusted if their development plans it becomes more densely more densely developed, and there's more trips.
Right.
One of the things that's also unique here is that the individual trips are significant. Yeah. The total is significant. One of the concepts here is the potential for one developer that has an assessment of, let's just call it 6,000 trips. If that developer changes a use on a property where there's an increase in trips, that developer can purchase non-used trips and credits from one of the other four developers, and sale vice versa kind of a thing. So that's a very unique perspective on this. That was the one thing that I was very concerned about PennDOT accepting. But PennDOT seems to be very much on board with this overall concept. That is highly unusual.
Yeah, and the one thing I think is fair to contemplate if I'm PennDOT is I'm looking at $5.9 million worth of improvements on my system at the cost of $1.1 million for PennDOT.
You said this was unique.
It is.
And I guess the question that I would ask is, the developers are doing this because they have control over the improvements, and they can, because this might not necessarily be a necessary cost for the developers, correct? That would be the cost that would be borne by PennDOT, but they're taking on the onus for this this cost.
Some portion of this would ultimately would fall to them as
Okay.
part of our requirement, because it would be an on-site requirement for them. I think it's fair to say, based on the potential for the grant from the DCED, as well as the PennDOT money, it's a cost savings for them too. Because if this is based on what they envision on their tracks.
So it's the combination of the
It's the combination.
PennDOT and the state money
Yeah.
and the developer's money, so it leverages all the money and makes it,
Yep, you're crowdsourcing,
Okay.
essentially.
Okay.
A total pool of 5.9 million, and you're buying a share of it, which would be less than what you, if you went by yourself to do it.
The example that was given, just on the Crew 814. Crew 814, if they were to do this project on their own and to build what has been identified in their area, would be something on the order of a 1.2 or a 1.3 million dollar project. But their portion, their component of this is something less than
It's like 440,000.
yeah, so $500,000. So there are clearly advantages to the developers to participate here in light of the PennDOT involvement, in light of the grants that are gonna go into this.
The risk that the developer assumes at this point is if they don't develop at the potential that they are projecting here, well, they may be out money. So there's an incentive for them to
Well, they're not
develop.
out
dare I say
money.
it's a turning lane going nowhere?
They would have just built infrastructure, more infrastructure, they would have paid for more infrastructure than
Than
they
they
would have
needed.
just with land
Yep.
development.
Yeah, so they're assuming a bit of a risk here as well.
Yeah.
Other questions on the trip generation?
And this
Okay.
trip generation, just curious, the Rogers property, that is all three phases of, and Mr. Maxwell's trip generation is based on the hotel, but also the potential for those other parcels that were subdivided as part of the land plan. Okay.
Each of the developers in this
I see.
partnership have basically given a full build-out model
Okay.
and said, this is what I think is going to happen on this tract, and here's the trips will be associated with it. I'm willing to sign off on that share based on what I think my full build-out is.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The only other thing that I would add to this is, this is going to take a significant period of time. No one's going from 13,000 trips a day to 44,000 trips a day quickly. And so I think that's an important perspective to keep. These improvements are going to be put in place to be able to accommodate eventually the 44,000. But when those improvements are put in place, the road volumes will not be 44,000 cars a day and won't be for some time until all of that development occurs.
And this is Trout Road to Route 99?
The interchange,
To
basically.
the interchange. So this nothing from Trout Road back to College Ave, Benner Pike? Okay.
Yeah. And that section is fairly well built out to accommodate the traffic.
Right.
Okay.
Through the old-fashioned way
Right.
Yep.
of
Not
Hitting
the newer
this.
way.
leveraging the development, extorting it from developers as part of the land development plan. Okay, the only comment I have is when I saw 44,000, that was jaw-dropping. Because I don't know if anybody has any experience with what a road that has 44,000 vehicles a day looks like. But I sure as heck wouldn't want to be sitting in this seat and trying to accommodate 44,000 cars a day through individual land development plan process.
Right.
First of all, it would be a mess as you're going through it. You know, maybe you get lucky and maybe in the end, you know, you get it built out to accommodate that, maybe, if you're real lucky. But here, we're collecting fee in lieu ahead of time and building it out ahead of time.
Yeah, it mimics the discussion that you just had about that second section of the PED connection is, you know, this is an opportunity cost for them. They're purchasing the, you know, infrastructure investment ahead of time at a lower cost in a partnership with PennDOT and through grants to basically ready-made a corridor, so when their land developments come along in the future, we're not really talking about TISs anymore.
And this will be done as multiple phases of one project, so the same people who would be doing the work would be doing it across all 4 different properties and.
Again, that's one of those details that isn't crystal clear right now,
Okay.
exactly how it's going to work. The one thing that has become clear over the last few days is that the township, even though we may or may not ultimately end up contributing financially directly to this, we are going to be very much involved because we're going to be the holder of all of these funds. And we're going to have the responsibility for design. And we're going to have the responsibility for bidding. And we're going to have the responsibility to ensure the construction is done and the inspection is done. So there are obligations on the part of the township here that don't necessarily directly translate into some of the costs that you're seeing here in that total. A lot of them would be part and parcel of that, but the township does play a very significant role in this overall process. So again, we don't have quite all the details on that at this point, but it's become very clear that the township's going to very much be engaged in this process. We're not going to be sitting back and watching these things happen. We're going to be very actively engaged with it.
Okay, that's a good segue into the second part, which shows the details. Questions, anybody on? By the way, that was very helpful to see it in this format, especially with the red outlining the change. If not, then the last piece was the bill. So, I mean, to me, it doesn't seem like 6 million is enough, but that's what the traffic engineers have come up with, right? And if everybody agrees to it, really doesn't matter.
The other thing that I would mention here, these costs have been calculated at prevailing wage as well, which if we're involved in this process, which we obviously will be, especially relative to bidding and awarding and those types of things, they'll have to be conducted and completed at prevailing wage costs. So the number, it presumably does in fact take into account all these modifications at prevailing wage.
All right, then questions on that? All right, then I'll assume that part of the details that we need to work out is if the bids come in higher than the estimates, there'll be some formula or everybody antes up their percentage more. Okay, then that takes us to the big picture, which is gauging our comfort level with the township, one, doing this and having the bandwidth and capacity to manage this. We're getting we're getting the hint that everyone's on board. I mean, this is.
Yeah, what I've told Mike and Dawn, I'm certain from a College Township perspective, I mean, I think this is absolutely what needs to be done. From our involvement standpoint, this doesn't scare me, but it underscores the fact that some of the things that we've kind of put into our timeline relative to our reorganization, adding some positions and some things like that, might be turned up a little bit. In other words, it may happen a little sooner than what we had anticipated in some regards. So I do anticipate that there will be some additional expenses for the township here. But in terms of our ability to manage this size of a project, I'm very confident that we're going to be able to do that. Whether it is in-house or whether it is a combination in-house and working with other consultants. So from that standpoint, yeah, I'm not overly concerned. The concept is sound. My biggest concern that I have is there's definitely going to need to be some formal agreement between Benner Township and College Township, especially if it's College Township that's going to be holding portions of these funds for use in Benner Township. So we will have to have some type of intergovernmental cooperation agreement, MOU, et cetera, whereby College and Benner agree on a variety of issues. So that's a significant component of this, and it's almost separate from the drafts that we have at the moment for the various developers.
So we'll hear back from you at a future meeting on how that gets resolved,
Yes.
how that gets handled. But it sounds like you've got support from council.
Yes.
As Mike said, this is,
Unique.
I mean, this,
Doesn't happen often.
you don't see this very often. This is proactive transportation planning on steroids. You know, municipalities might take little bites at it. We've taken little bites at that. You know, Hilltop, Squirrel Drive, South Atherton at Hills Plaza, pulling people together. This is big time though. It's big time transportation planning. And 44,000 cars a day is a scary number.
Sure.
I mean, that's what we had here at College Township before the bypass was completed. And we all saw what that was like. I mean, it was gridlock during the peaks. And it's hard to imagine, but. All right.
All right.
As Rich said in his notes, anxiously awaiting the next update.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, that takes us to our last new business item, code changes, discussion, and possibly action in setting a public hearing.
All right, thanks. I'll try to be brief. This memo dated December 15th is in front of you tonight. Goes over kind of where we've been, noting that the council saw these proposals to change the ordinance. They remanded the changes to the Planning Commission for further review. The Planning Commission made a recommendation back to council. Council did see these again, and then asked staff to come back with some further updates for discussion. So, noting that we have learned a little more since the last time we met. Mark and I were able to attend a data center training, learned all about data centers, and learned some best practices. So we incorporated those into this ordinance language. One of the recommendations coming out from those were to permit them by conditional use, of course, and the zoning district we chose was the rural residential zoning district. It's not very widely scattered across the township. It exists near the quarry. It exists, it's this dark green, or it's this light green. It exists near the quarry, and we have a space up here near the transfer station in Dale Summit, and then an area over here off South Atherton Street where Twiggs Lane is located. The lots around Twiggs Lane are, there are a few lots there that are a little larger.
Is that right by Scenery Park?
Yes. Right by Scenery
Oh,
Park.
so that lot right there on the corner of Scenery and College?
No.
Or South Atherton?
That one was in, you mean where Geisinger was once proposed?
Right.
No, I think that one was in, where was that? I think that was a commercial property.
Okay, all right.
I believe that one was a commercial property. Okay, yeah, that's a rural residential
So
office.
if that is,
Sorry,
that
yeah.
would have been,
So that's a different zoning district. So, you know, all up for discussion. Some of the other recommendations that came from the chorus was facade requirements to ensure that the buildings aren't just, you know, one-sided concrete buildings. Buffer yard requirements, screening, landscaping, and fencing. So those are for data centers. And there, we go into a little bit more detail here once we get to the ordinance. But so moving on, we also discussed a threshold for.
and this would always be conditional use?
Yes.
Okay, right, okay.
It would be a conditional use. And, you know, if you wanted to discuss more, I know
the planning commission, and you'll see this in a couple of weeks, but when we talked about rezoning for ARL, they said, is ARL going to be big enough that it's going to require something like a data center? And so what types of uses would then again be permitted over in the UPD?
Okay, thank you.
We talked about thresholds for traffic impact studies. The way that we're including the language kind of gives the developers some direction better than they had in the past, but also gives them some flexibility because it allows the, the requirement for a TIS to also be as directed by the township engineer. And then one other thing that we wanted to put in here, which we haven't discussed, but we wanted to bring up, this would fall under subdivision and land development, would be to have a requirement or have an option for staff to be able to request visualizations when it comes to different or specific land development plans. So not so much renderings, but just some type of visualization tools that we can use to better identify how things are going to look in the field. Burkentine worked with us fairly well with some renderings, with some cross sections and things, so kind of working together. It's a little open-ended, but it's just the start, of something that we could add into the ordinance. Then when we move into zoning changes, we would change some definitions. We note that energy generation facilities are currently permitted by conditional use, and that we would just want to update the definitions within the ordinance to ensure that they're capturing everything that is coming down from the state with this House bill. So the definitions have been updated to reflect that. Off-street parking and loading, we would change this section in the zoning ordinance to allow developers to choose to work with the Center Area Transit Authority to provide free parking passes for employees or residents for an optional 25% reduction in parking requirements. And finally, in zoning, temporary uses, mobile food vendors, this one, we just wanted to modify the ordinance language to permit a 1-year permit application period rather than 2 6-month permit application periods, kind of making it easier for everybody. So next you have in your packet the ordinance language itself and just kind of how this would look. I did see that in under 1 I put rural resource area instead of residential, so that would be something I'd like to go in there and fix. But everything else here is set to move forward if council is so satisfied with the changes. They can set a public hearing tonight or ask staff to go back and provide more information. The next time the Center Regional Planning Agency meets is February 5th. That's their first meeting of the year, so we won't be able to hold any public hearings until at least February 19th would be the earliest. So that's what I'm providing to you tonight, and I'm here for any questions or comments.
Oh, thanks, Lindsay. Sounds like Center Region Planning Agency is a committee I need to get on. They don't meet again until February?
I know, yeah, they canceled December.
I'm just teasing.
We'll keep them busy, though, coming up here with our DRIs and rezonings.
Yes, we will. So, am I correct, Lindsay, the biggest changes from the last time we went through all of this are in the data centers?
Yeah.
Changes from the direction that we gave to go to, so.
Yes, absolutely. Those, we incorporated language to have, building facades be incorporated if they face a district, a zoning district that requires or permits any residential uses. They would be able to, build steps back or, recess things on the building, change in the building height, the fenestration or the arrangement and design of, the windows and openings on the building, and changes in materials, textures, and other accent materials. The recommendation was to have a 100-foot buffer between the data center and any district that permits residential uses. Screening would be required and different regulations there. and as well as landscaping requirements just set forth in our zoning ordinance as they stand now. And then fencing, we're discouraging chain link fences and barbed wire fences along public streets or when adjacent to any residential zoning district. So those are the main things that we pulled from the recommendations that we found. Cumberland County Planning Department put out a good resource that Mike shared with me, and also Lancaster has done a few things as well, and had a planning guide pertaining to data centers that they also added for us. The chorus that Mark and I attended was very interesting. There was the Delaware River Basin Commission was there, and the Susquehanna River Basin Commission were both there to discuss how it impacts water and how much water will be needed. That's why we thought, when someone at the course said, what about a quarry? Could you use the quarry? Could you use beneficial reuse? So there was a lot of developed, language and discussion that had gone into those. And Mark and I were pretty interactive during that discussion too.
All right, since we've been through most of this already.
The only other significant addition has been the addition of the visualizations since council saw this last. And I think you folks hit upon the wording or the use of the word visualizations to try to discourage artistic renderings, which can be very costly to a developer. And so the language there clearly states that staff has the ability to make the request. I don't know that there's any more teeth in that, though. And so that might be something that if council is interested in visualizations, what kind of teeth do you want the ordinance to have to require them? And is it appropriate to require on all types of development that might be coming to you for approval?
Right.
So those are a couple of the questions that issue begs.
Well, since you brought that up, I would offer, first of all, I think we appreciate that, because we've had multiple examples lately in the last year where they would have been very helpful. As far as the teeth goes, is it possible just to see what other folks are doing, as far as what trips the threshold to require them, and feed that back to us?
Yes, we can do that. One of the things I was considering were, anything in either the Gateway zoning district would be required, or anything in the Dale Summit area be required. But that kind of leaves out some other areas that we might want to see visualizations for. So yeah, let me run through some other ordinances.
So if we go down that road, what does that do for tonight's potential action?
If council's in the position to move everything else forward in the ordinance, if you're satisfied with that, we can remove the visualizations for now out of the ordinance and just discuss it a little bit more. We can bring it back to you. We can even take it by PC and see, get their input.
All right, for efficiency, would it be better to do that, or would it be better to do this and then go back? It'd be better to pull it out?
Pull it out and we'll come back to it.
Yes.
Is there an interest in doing that then, before we go any further? Is there an interest in putting, what do you call it, teeth, making it a hard requirement at a certain threshold for renderings or visualizations?
I think it's consistent with giving staff all the tools they need that our members mentioned.
So that would change that would change the action wouldn't change the action, it would just change what we're offering as a public hearing, right?
Yes. Yep.
Correct.
Yeah, you can move everything forward minus the change to the subdivision land development ordinance option to include visualizations.
Okay, before we go there, since we've already chewed on quite a bit of this, we can just, questions on any aspect of it, we don't really have to break it down. Susan, Tracy, okay.
I just have one thing to offer, and I shared some articles today. We're anticipating, especially with power generation facilities, we're anticipating that the state is going to be taking some action. I think the work and the elaboration that Lindsay has provided on the data centers is very good. And that represents, at the moment, the state of the art. Power generation, I believe, is going to be much more of a wing it kind of an approach. And the reason I say that is because of pending this reset legislation that is being contemplated in the Commonwealth. It may very well take away individual municipalities' zoning authority for certain types of things. The drafts of that particular legislation that I have read have indicated that conditional uses are granted more time, which was the basis of putting this forward to, at the very least, make it not a use by right, but to make it a conditional use so that we have more time to respond and review. Right now, the legislation that I've seen for power generation seems to acknowledge conditional use. At the end of the day, if the legislation is passed, there's a chance that that language isn't in there anymore. But this is essentially the best protection I think we have right now to give us enough time to properly review a power generation facility should one be suggested or tried to be located here. So I just wanted to make everybody aware that there's no guarantee, and there's not a guarantee because of what the state is contemplating.
Okay. Then I think if we're all in agreement, the appropriate action would be to set a public hearing for February 19th on everything we've discussed tonight, except for, what piece are we pulling, Lindsay?
It's actually section 4 and visual option to include visualizations.
All right, except for that.
Okay.
Somebody want to move to take that action?
So
Okay. Do anyone want a second?
I'll second.
All right. Comments from the public on this action?
No, not this action.
Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing to be set for, what, February 19th?
yes.
Okay. Did you have something you wanted to address council on that's not on the agenda?
I do. It's about the traffic signals on Shiloh Road.
Okay. I have to ask you to step up to the podium and identify yourself so that everybody in America can know who you are.
Yes, I live in Pleasant Point Apartments. I do not drive. And I have noticed coming out of Trout Road, like around 3, 4, 5 in the afternoon, you cannot turn left. People try and do it all the time, and there's going to be some tragedies there if we don't soon get a traffic signal put in there, because I'll be riding with a friend, and she wants to turn left. At that time, I said, I like my life too much. We're going right, we're going around, okay? My manager and I were on the phone one day, and she was fussing, she couldn't get going left. I said, where are you? And she said she was on Trout Road. I said, no, turn right, it's rush hour. During rush hour, you cannot turn left from Trout Road up to 99. You've got to go around. We need a traffic signal for that purpose.
Yeah, I think that's why we're taking the action that we are, because otherwise you don't get one until somebody puts a land development plan in and it trips the threshold. So we're trying to be a little more proactive there with that. The plan that we discussed tonight.
Yeah, you were saying something, you sort of talking a little earlier about something that reminded me of I-270 corridor, with that going to 44,000. Yeah, down in DC, I-270 corridor, it's really bad, but anyway.
We're working on it.
Thank you.
Ma'am, would you identify yourself for the minutes, please?
My name is Karen Rhodes, R-H-O-D-E-S, Rhodes Scholar.
Oh, great, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we don't have any more new business. We have our typical staff informatives. Any questions for staff on the informatives? Anything else we need to be informed of? All right, anything under council and staff, other matters? Staff, other matters?
Just a reminder that there will be a special meeting that will be held on the 30th of December at 5:30 for the purposes of adoption of the COG budget and the College Township budget and any other business that may come before council.
And that is in all likelihood, that's a Zoom option?
Yes, we will have a Zoom option, yes.
But for anybody who wants to show up in person, though?
We will be here.
Be here, okay. And what time is it?
5:30.
All right, will anything else be here at 5:30?
Pardon me? Oh, I don't know, we'll see.
Just
You have to ask, asking for a friend? Okay, got it.
No, there's two other members not here, so.
Sure, I get it.
All right, council, anything under other matters?
Thanks.
Council, anything under adjournment?
So moved.
All right, we're adjourned.
Well played.